Hello and welcome back to this channel. I hope everyone is doing well, staying safe and keeping sane. So for today's video, I'm going to be discussing things I wish I knew as a pre-med or in undergrad and gap year, everything. Anyway, so today's video I'm going to try to keep short, but I just wanted to address things that I either did not know while applying to medical school or while in undergrad as pre-med, or things that I kind of found out but I found out too late, or things that I kind of knew but never actually focused on, and things I think that are going to be helpful to any pre-med at any stage of their pre-med journey, whether being a freshman just going into college, or graduating college and taking a gap year, or maybe even going to med school straight away. So first point, I think choose a major that you enjoy and not a major that you think med schools are looking for, or you think it's going to be, the best major for med school, pretty much. Personally, I was a biology major, and I did really enjoy being a biology major. And I don't know if, now that I know different, if I had to go back, if I would have changed my major. But that's something I would have actually liked to know going in as a freshman into undergrad. The reason why I say this is being a biology major can be kind of hard because all your classes are mostly going to be science classes. It can kind of be a way to, well, not be a way, but because all your classes are science classes and most of your classes are hard classes, your GPA might not be in the best state, unlike maybe if you choose another major that maybe it's not a science major and maybe in something else that you enjoy, you might have a chance. It might be you might have an advantage in that you might have higher grades in those classes. And that's not to say that non-science classes are easy or that you're guaranteed A's in non-science classes, but it's just a possibility that I did not really know about as a freshman when I was going into college. And also, but the con part of having a non-science major is that when it comes time to fulfill your pre-med requirements, it ends up being like you're juggling two majors or a major and a minor. And so it kind of ends up being a lot of work as well. So I feel like every point has either like an advantage and a disadvantage. And I think that's the thing about having a non-science major. Unlike myself as a biology major, most of the pre-med requirements were already requirements for my major. So you can have a biology major and also have a minor or something else, as everyone knows. But for me personally, as a freshman, I just went in with the idea that, okay, to be a pre-med means to have a biology major. And kind of like when I actually found that I could actually have a major that's not biology and still go to med school, it was kind of a little bit late in the game. So that's what I would say. But I would say go with a major that you enjoy and a major that, pretty much a major that you would enjoy. And like I said before, now that I even know better, I don't know if I would have chosen a different major because I really like my major. So that was my first point. Second point, I would say make time for hobbies, activities, extracurricular, club organization involvement, and stuff that you actually enjoy. So me personally, I would have loved to do like a study abroad while in undergrad. That's an experience that I wasn't able to have because I was just trying to juggle all my classes and do all this stuff. So and oftentimes I meet a lot of pre-med also that they're just focused on pre-meds that know they want to go to med school right from like freshman year. We tend to be a lot focused on like the classes and the grades and trying to graduate on time and trying to get to med school that sometimes you forget or you just don't make time to do stuff that you enjoy. Not that you don't enjoy medicine and whatnot, but other stuff outside of medicine. And I feel like this is important because it actually gives you something outside of being a pre-med and outside of medicine to actually discuss when you get to your interviews or even in your secondary prompts or essays. Most times there are questions that require diverse experiences, and you just want to make sure your entire undergrad experience wasn't just books and clinical experience and just that. You want to make sure you have something else to discuss. I found that most times in my interviews, the way I connect with the interviewers are through stuff that I had gone through that were not even pre-med or all in the chase of going to med school. Point number 3, I would say planning my 4 year timeline or however year of undergrad more meticulously so that I could like plan in stuff, like planning other things, like I said, maybe try to fit in a minor or try to fit in a study abroad or stuff like that. So for me, I know this applies to people that, like I said before, decided to go in as a pre-med or, they already know they want to go to med school. So for myself, I kind of knew I wanted to go to med school after undergrad, but this kind of ties into point two, the last point, and that's just, because I'm more effective when I plan. I'm like a big planner. So if something is not in my plan, I kind of like don't make time for it, or I just end up saying that, oh, there's no time I can do it. So for planners, I would say try to plan, or just put in space for, or give space for other things that you might enjoy in your 4 year plan. Shouldn't just be take 5 science classes this year, take 5 science classes the next year, plan into 4 years. Try to plan in a way that you can you can add a minor to you in something that you enjoy. Me personally, I really enjoyed when I took a religious studies class, and that's something I would have loved to minor in if I had actually kind of like factored it in earlier. But when it came time to factor in stuff, and actually psychology as well, I ended up just minoring in something that was similar to biology, which is bioinformatics. And that's not even because I like really loved bioinformatics. It was just because it was like, oh, just one more class and to be a minor. That's full disclosure, to be honest. Point number 4, I would say participate in more research projects or topics that you enjoy and find meaningful. So I think this is applicable to every pre-med, whether you're in a master's or a graduate program or you're pre-med in an undergrad. I would say try to find research and stuff that you actually enjoy. So I was involved in research in undergrad, and while I learned a lot from that experience, and I think it actually kind of shaped a lot of my scientific thinking, I kind of wish I had chosen something that I enjoyed more. I feel like if you do research in something that you actually really enjoy, you tend to be more successful, or you tend to make it more meaningful. It's not just and with research, and that's something I did not know actually. With research, you can do clinical research, you can do research in social sciences. It doesn't have to be basic science wet lab type research, which is what I did. And although I'm grateful for that experience, I also wish I had known that I had other options earlier. So this I actually kind of found out a little bit later, and I couldn't. It was like I was already too far gone on my path that I couldn't turn back. So that's actually something I wish I had known earlier. So number 5, this is kind of more open-ended, but be open to no's and rejections, and do not be afraid of sounding dumb. So ask questions, find out information. The worst case scenario, the answer you get is no, and you move on to something better. But that was me for like freshman, sophomore year. I was kind of like really hesitant to reach out to find out from other people that have been through that have experienced whatever I was going through. Just afraid of rejection in general. And even doing research, because when you start doing research, or to those of you that are doing research now, it's a lot of, you can't know everything, and you have to ask a lot of questions. You have to get help most times. And for me, it took me a while to be that comfortable in doing that. I was a lot scared of getting to know, or maybe sounding dumb when I come up with an idea or something. So just be open to no's. Trust me, that's something you will get a lot along this process. And just think, not to be cliche or anything, it's actually going to make you better in the long run. Okay, this one, I don't know if it's just me, but something I also stressed about in undergrad, or as a pre-med, even during my gap year and stuff, is making the right connections, because everyone tells you, network, make the right connections, know the right people, say the right thing. And while this is actually really important, I don't think it's everything. I feel like when you connect with someone more naturally, it's more beneficial in the long run than just trying to artificially or superficially connect with everyone so you can get like, I don't know, the benefits of networking. So I think, be kind to yourself. If you're an introvert like I am, it might take a little bit to warm up to people, but just be open to the whole experience. Attend conferences. If it's something you're actually interested in, go ahead and speak to the speaker and get their information. Go to your professor's office hours. If there's people, or if there's someone you can connect with, you're gonna connect with them naturally. You don't have to force it. It's gonna come to you naturally. Just as long as you're open to the experience and you're going and you're trying your best. You don't have to beat yourself up because you're not able to get everyone's card at the end of a conference, or because you don't feel like waiting in line to speak to the speaker that everyone wants to speak to. You're going to make the right connections as long as you're open and you're going to the right things and going to the right places. Do not beat yourself up on it. And I think this is particularly when it comes to letter of recommendations. I mean, we all know how important that is in med school, and I am not knocking that. It is really, really important, not just in med school, for whatever you're doing. A good letter of recommendation is actually important. And I feel like most times it turns into this race where, you're going to the office hours just so you can ask for a letter of recommendation after, and you talking to this person and trying to make this connection just so you can get a letter of recommendation after. I think when you make a genuine connection, you end up getting the letter of recommendation that works best for you. I would say for med school, most of the letters I used are from people that I felt like I genuinely connected with. Actually, two of the people I ended up using were not even like professors; they were advisors in different programs that I was a part of in undergrad. So I don't know what number this is, but I would say do not freak out about the possibility of taking the MCAT more than once. A lot of people end up taking the MCAT more than once. That's not to say you shouldn't aim to take the MCAT once, or you shouldn't put in your all and try to take the MCAT once. Of course, it is better to take the MCAT once if you can. All I am saying is a lot more people than you think actually take the MCAT more than once. And for me, I remember when it was time to take the MCAT, I actually had this almost a panic attack. There was a lot of anxiety because I was like, oh, this is my one chance. I want to do my best. I want to make sure, I get the perfect score this first round. I do not want to take it again. And it ended up adding a little stress in my life, and it ended up adding a little stress even as I was practicing. And it ended up, affecting even my study method or whatnot. But this is when I was taking the MCAT the first time. And even when I decided that, okay, you know what, it is fine if I take this exam again, it is fine. But what I'm not going to do is to be scared of going into the exam hall and taking the test. I actually felt a lot better. And even on my first test, even though my score wasn't the best, I still, I felt like I did my best at that point with what I had and with what I knew. So I would say do not be afraid of taking the MCAT more than once. And sure, you should kind of have it at the back of your mind that, there's a possibility that you take it the second time and it is fine. It is not a failure at all. Instead, it actually shows schools that you did better. I mean, you improved your score, you improved yourself, whatever it is you did. And it ended up being actually for me something I talked about in my interview. A lot of people wanted to know, like, so what happened between, when you took the MCAT the first time and when you took it the second time? How did you improve your score? It ended up being something I actually talked about a lot in a lot of my interviews. And so just take it like that. You do not have to take the MCAT once. So that's that. So I think I already talked about this before. Ask questions and ask for help when you need it. Okay, and then this is more like, when it's time to apply to school. It's never too early to start compiling a list of schools that you might be interested in applying to. This is something I actually did not do as well until the year or, when I was about to apply. And I personally know why I did not start compiling a list earlier. It was kind of like a defense mechanism to not be let down or whatnot. But I would advise, and if this is something I did, I think would have been helpful to me it's never too early to start compiling a list of schools. Start thinking about, okay, where are the places that I would love to live in? Where are the places I know that I do not want to go to? Where are schools that kind of cater to my GPA range or my MCAT range? where are schools that offer this, where are schools that offer that. Compile the list. Just make it as long as you want. 30 schools, 40 schools, 50 schools. This kind of makes it easier for you when it's time to apply, so you can start picking and choosing based on your current statistics and your current interest. So, it's better that way rather than when it's time to apply to school, that's when you start going through the 100 schools and trying to figure out which one you want to go to. That actually ends up kind of wasting your time. Try to start filtering schools, okay, these are schools that do not accept out-of-state students. These are schools that the tuition is a lot higher than I would like to. These are schools that offer scholarships. I feel like it's stuff that if you start doing a lot earlier, it actually benefits you and takes out a lot of stress when it comes time to applying to schools. Okay, and this is one that I actually wish I had known. I know for the rest of them, I wish I know, but this is actually one of the major ones. Pre-write your secondaries if you can. I kept telling people that the secondary was a beast that I didn't even know existed, or I kind of knew it existed, but I kind of did not know how difficult it would be in the long run, writing the secondaries. I was prepared for the personal statement, the activity section of the MCAS application, turning the application, the MCAT, all that other stuff, interviews, but I never really thought about the secondaries. And then when it came time to write my secondaries, I was freaking out. Most schools have a lot of essays, and some schools have not deadline, every school has a deadline, but you want to try to submit early, and some schools have maybe you have to submit it within 2 weeks, I think. So that ended up being really, really stressful for me. And I feel like if I had started maybe after taking the MCAT, or after turning in my application, because you get this 1 month where I think about 1 month where your application gets verified, and then you start getting secondaries. And just so most people that don't know, secondaries are essays that come after your personal statement, after you've turned in your first application. That's your primary application. Then schools start to send you they start sending you questions that are more personal to them, I would say. So per schools, some schools, so I know Duke had about 5 essays, and they were all 1 page or more than 1 page long. So, and then there are schools that have just 1 prompt or 2 prompts, and they're just 1,500 characters. Those are the easy ones. But either way, if you had the template before and you were already thinking about those questions in your head, and already pre-writing those responses, when it came time to when the schools actually send you their secondaries, then you're able to just modify them based on the prompts. Most schools don't change their prompt, well, just in case there are changes, and it makes it a lot easier. And because the prompts also, sometimes you're able to tweak the essay for school A, tweak it and send it to school B. It kind of gets easier once you get into the momentum. But if it's just you were not prepared, and you have all these essays, and you have to write all these essays, and you're trying to submit it within 2 weeks, it gets really stressful. And so it gets really stressful. Personally, for myself, like I said earlier, I submitted about 20 applications, and within a week of my submission, I had gotten about 19, 18, even almost 20 secondary applications. And with the secondary applications, like I mentioned earlier, they were these essays. So I had a lot of essays, and it wasn't fun. So if you can pre-write your secondaries, if you're that, by that I mean if you're available, and if you're you have the time and stuff like that, you should pre-write your secondaries. And then this is also about the secondaries. Do not freak out if you're unable to meet the 2 weeks deadline. Actually, I feel the 2 weeks deadline is not some schools give you deadlines, but most schools give you 2 months before the deadline. And definitely you want to make sure you turn in your secondary application before 2 months or whatever. But the 2 weeks, I think, is more of a deadline that goes around in the pre-med communities. And some admins and some people tell you, try to turn it within 2 weeks. It is not a I don't know how to put it, it's not a rigid deadline. apart from schools that actually have it as their deadlines. I know I had like 1 or 2 schools that I had to turn it in within 2 weeks, before 2 weeks. What I'm trying to say is, while the goal, or while you're aiming to turn in your secondary applications within the 2 weeks deadline, it is not a do or die situation. It's not like, okay, if you turn in your application after 2 weeks, you're gonna get rejected, or you're not gonna get an interview. You're still gonna get interviews even if you turn it in outside of the 2 weeks deadline. It's just recommended. So pretty much have the deadline in your head, work towards the deadline. If you're unable to meet it for whatever reasons, maybe work, as was in my case, or maybe you did not start writing your secondaries like I mentioned earlier, as was my case as well, do not freak out. You will be fine. Just try as much as possible to do it within that time. But if you are unable to do it, like I said, you'll be fine. Personally, a lot of schools that I actually got their interview invites were from schools that actually turned in. I think there was a school I turned in after a month, and I got their secondary invite like after no. So I got their secondary invite, and it took me like a month to submit my essays, my secondary applications, and within a week of my submission, I got an interview offer. So that's just an example. I had like a lot of schools like that actually, and I ended up getting accepted to those schools, honestly. So what I'm trying to say is, do not freak out if you're unable to meet the 2 weeks deadline. Myself personally, I was like freaking out when it was like getting to a month and I was writing secondaries. I was freaking out, and it was affecting me mentally, even physically, stress wise. So that's why I'm like making it a point. Do not freak out. Just do the best you can for every essay, for every secondary. Try to turn it in as soon as possible. Pray for the best, and you should be fine. And for the next point, I would say it's never, and this is the last point actually, it is never too early to start attending mock interviews. It all builds up because you get more comfortable with the process. So for me, I had started attending mock interviews, even like the ones that are not serious, like since like undergrad, since sophomore year or freshman year. So, while it might not be like as fresh as you would want before your interview, you should definitely attend a mock interview before your main interviews. That makes sense. So that's what I did. I did a mock interviews like the week before my actual interviews. But what I'm trying to say is, start attending mock interviews as early as you start getting offers for them. I know undergrads do that. Some undergrads do that. Offer you mock interviews. Try to attend them. Try to attend as much mock interviews as possible. It kind of makes you comfortable with the process. It makes you comfortable with the process. It makes you comfortable with the questions, even when you don't know that you're, unconsciously, I guess, you get more comfortable with the process, more comfortable with the questions, and you get more comfortable answering them and being in that situation. Especially for even the MMIs, if it's possible, go to mock interviews for MMIs. It was really, really helpful for me in my experience, and so that's something I would actually recommend. I think I said that was the last one. There's actually one. So this is actually kind of cliche, but do not be afraid of detours. As pre-meds, I know we like to plan, and planning is good because I plan a lot. But do not be afraid of detours. Like I've mentioned earlier in my past videos, I was one of those people that, wanted to go from undergrad to med school right away, take the MCAT as early as possible, get to med school. But, along the way, I ended up taking 2 gap years, and these are years that I wouldn't trade for anything. These are years that have built me up, not just as an aspiring health professional, but even as a person. These are years that I've grown a lot through. I've learned a lot, both in like the sciences or in the medical field or health professional field, and as well as, in other areas of life and like as a person. So I would say, do not be afraid of detours. Plan, but know that, in case something happens, you're always ready to make the appropriate adjustments, and just learn through the process. You learn a lot through the process. It might not be fun when you're going through it. Trust me, I know. But most times it actually makes you better. It makes you a better candidate for med school. It makes you a better physician in the long run. So I would say, plan, but never be afraid of getting detours. And like I said earlier, do not don't forget to explore, explore different interests, explore different hobbies. Don't just be, that pre-med. Make yourself a well-rounded individual because a well-rounded individual, because honestly, that actually helps you and serves you a lot in the long run. So yeah, I think those are the points. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, do not forget to leave your comments down below. Any questions about the points I raised, or if there are any videos you would like to see, you would like me to do to answer some of your questions as you go through this journey. Do not forget to comment down below. And also, if you like the video, do not forget to give a thumbs up. And so email in the description box below. So if you have any questions or anything I can help you with through your journey, you can send me an email, and I'll try to respond to that as soon as I can. So yeah, I hope everyone stays safe, and